Hi, and welcome to NT303 here at Herzing University Online. In this video, I want to take just a few minutes to run through a couple of important things that you may not be familiar with. The first is the new course layout here in Blackboard, and the second is NetLab and just a couple of introductory things that you need to know there. And I'll kind of cover these two topics simultaneously because they're obviously both connected. When you log into your course in Blackboard, the first thing that you're going to see is the home page, and here you can see the link to that over on the left. But on the home page, the main thing you have here is your announcements, and you can click on the More Announcements link to actually go to the announcements page and look over those, and you do need to check that from time to time. Second here, the second link here on the left, you have the Read Me First page, and there's just a couple of things I want to point out here. You do want to read over all of this information, but I just want to point out what it says here in these couple of paragraphs. Essentially, as a distance learner, you're taking on a little more responsibility as opposed to someone who's taking this course in seat, and you just need to be aware of that, and it's going to be up to you to take care of the assignments and learning materials and different things and accomplish what you need to. Just in reading this second paragraph, it can be tempting to procrastinate in completing the reading and assignments, but avoid that pitfall. You will be busy, possibly stretched in keeping up with the pace, and the situation will compound rapidly. So, in other words, what it's stating there is that if you get behind, it's going to get really tough for you to get caught up. This is an 8-week course. You're covering 16 weeks worth of material in 8 weeks. Essentially, as compared to kind of your typical college level course. So just keep that in mind, and try to stay on top of things and try to stay up to date in the course. The second link that you see here is the syllabus and info. Here you'll have the course syllabus that you'll want to download and take a look at. This has a list of all your assignments and shows the due dates and stuff, and so you'll definitely want to check that out. It also has your faculty information. Next is the discussion board. Here's the discussions for the different units, and you'll just click on those links as you're completing those assignments throughout the term. Okay, so here's a very, very, very important section. This is submitting your assignments and assessments. The first section here is actually some introductory material on NetLab. If you have not used NetLab for any courses up to this point, then you need to really pay attention to this in detail. And even if you have used NetLab before, for some courses it's a little different, so you need to kind of take a look at this information. You'll see there are a couple of documents that are attached. There's also an embedded video. This video is extremely important. It shows you what you need to know as far as working with servers and different things inside of NetLab. And then down below is some information about your initial logon and some other stuff. So be sure to read over all of this and watch that video. Further down, what you'll see is your different assignments, and here's where you will click the link to submit your assignments once they are complete. I want to point out that this is where you go to submit your assignments. You're going to see references to assignments in the units down here, but understand that these unit sections, these are essentially your learning materials, and you'll want to go through those, and anytime you see something about an assignment or a discussion or whatever, it's just a reference to it. You actually have to come back up here to get the information on the assignment or the discussion and to complete either of those. Okay, so I clicked on Unit 2 here just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Up top you see the title of the course, you see some basic information about NetLab. And then when you scroll down, you see the primary topic for the unit, and underneath that what you have here essentially is a schedule for you to keep throughout the week. This sort of guarantees, it's a pacing guide is what it is, sort of guarantees that you will complete your assignments on time, and you need to try to stick to this pacing guide as much as possible. Down below that, you'll see the primary topic broken up into smaller topics, and you'll see some different things here mentioned and some videos. So as you scroll through these learning materials, when you get down toward the bottom, you'll see a reference to the discussion post. There's nothing that you can do here. It's just a reference to it. You have to go back up to the discussion section by clicking on that link on the left-hand side of the page to get there. Same thing here about your discussion responses, and same thing here as far as the Unit 2 assignment here. There's nothing to do here. There are no instructions. There's nothing here. You've got to scroll back up and go to the Submit Assignments section in order to see that information. Okay, so that's about it for Blackboard. Again, just to remind you about this NetLab section, very important. Be sure to look over that and to watch that video. Now, as far as NetLab goes, I'm going to show you some basics here. When you go to log into NetLab, you'll put in your username and password. If this is the first time that you have logged in, you're using an initial password, and so you're going to be prompted now to select a new password. Okay, you don't have to put in an email address here, but you can if you want to. And then on the next screen, you need to select your time zone and how you want the time format displayed and all that stuff. Of course, the beginning of our week is on a Monday. You'll click Submit. And here, it's just letting you know you can change those settings later if you need to. So once you've gone through that initial setup, from now on, when you log into NetLab, this is what you're going to see. And really the only thing that you need to do here for the most part is just to create your NetLab reservations. You can do that by clicking this button here, or you can go up to Schedule and click Schedule Lab for myself. Okay, now this is extremely important here. In NT303 we have two different lab setups that we use. So pay attention to the assignment instructions. Some labs will use this Windows Server 2016 setup. Some labs will use the Windows Server 2016 Hyper-V setup. If the lab is requiring Hyper-V, then this is the lab setup that you need to use. And again, the assignment instructions will provide that information. Just be sure to pay attention to that. So once you know which setup that you need, you can click on it. And so here it is. It defaults to 1 hour. You can click over here on Action and select Schedule Lab. Okay, and what you see here is you see the various pods that are available. You can view other pods in case initial pods that you see here are already assigned. What you can do here is essentially select your date using the calendar up top, and then the time that you want to schedule your lab. I'm going to schedule a lab for right now so that you can see what it looks like when the lab is available. Notice that all I have is the remaining part of that last hour, I guess, the 23 minutes. If I want more than that, I can click on the calendar and actually choose a time, so I can extend that out to where I've got 1 hour and 23 minutes or 1 hour and 53 minutes, basically whatever I want in 30-minute increments. I would suggest that anytime you schedule your time in NetLab, you want to do at least a minimum of 2 hours, because it's going to take you at least that long to get through. And you can always extend your time after it has started. Once your time gets down below 30 minutes, you'll see that option available to you. Okay, so I'm going to go back and change this. To to what the default was, which is 23 minutes, and that way I can show you how to extend your time. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to click on Submit. Okay, again, once your lab is available, you'll see an Enter Lab button. Of course, mine is available now because I scheduled it for right now. If I had scheduled it for later, I wouldn't see this button until my lab time had actually started. Okay, so once your lab is available, you can click on Enter Lab, and your lab will begin to initialize here, and you'll see what you have to work with here once everything comes up. Again, pointing you back to the Submit Assignments Assessment section, this video here on NetLab is going to cover everything else that I'm not covering in this welcome video. As soon as the pod loads and I show you a couple quick things there, I'm going to stop this video, and so you'll need to come back and make sure you watch this video here in the Submit Assignments Assessment section to show you how to actually work with the servers, or the different items there in NetLab. So be sure you come back to watch that. Okay, so going back to NetLab here, you can see my pod is still initializing. It should be up here in just a few seconds. Again, once this comes up, you'll see all the, you'll see all the devices that you need to have access to, and since this is a Windows Server course, you'll always be working with the servers. You see all the servers that are available to you here in the lab, and you can just click on those in order to access them. For instance, server DC1, you can click on that to access, and you can go back to the topology by clicking the topology button. Notice up here it shows time remaining. I'm not able to scroll over here, but typically when it falls below 30 minutes, it hasn't done that here, probably because of the length that I scheduled the lab, but when it falls below 30 minutes, you'll see there'll be a red button here that'll show up that'll tell you that click here to extend your lab, essentially. Okay, so again, that's it for this video. Be sure to go back if you've not already watched this video here on NetLab in this Submit Assignments Assessment section. Be sure to go back and check that out. Thanks.